The Garden Report is powered by Prize Picks, the exclusive daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hey, Boy Manning here. Welcome to the Garden Report after the biggest Celtics collapse we've seen. And certainly our time covering the team. Noah Dalzell here by my side from Celtics Blog in Atlanta. Since the 90s, 96, 97 I believe is the number of tracking these leads in these games. This is the biggest Celtics collapse. We saw it here tonight. No Derek White, no Drew Holiday of course for this game, but Hawks playing without Trae Young, Jalen Johnson. Feel like those cancel each other out, or even bigger losses on Atlanta's side. They were not playing particularly well coming into this all season really, and even in their latest stretch. So this one was stunning, Noah. And the Celtics went up by 30 early. Joe Mazzulla said after the game, you have to expect that that's going to diminish. That's the second time in a week that he has said that after they nearly blew a 20-point lead to the Bucks at home last Wednesday. So they've been dealing with these over the last couple weeks here. 22-point collapse to the Cavs actually resulted in a loss a couple weeks even before that. So 3 games here where there's some slippage. Celtics not overly concerned. Kristaps Porzingis, Jason Tatum, both more or less saying it's on to the next one against the Hawks again here on Thursday. Jaylen Brown a little bit more focused on the mindset of the team in these kind of situations. Where do you fall coming out of this one?
Yeah, to me, it's almost like there were 2 different issues here. There was the letting the foot off the gas that led to a 30-point lead to become 18 at halftime, and then a deficit in the third quarter, or early in the fourth quarter. And then there's the late game execution. And honestly, that was to me maybe a little bit more concerning, just because we're not getting a ton of those samples of Jason and Jalen down the stretch. How are you going to execute? How are you going to kind of deal with a close game with the ball in their hands? And so I had more takeaways just from those last few minutes, I think, than from blowing the lead, because ultimately, they're up by double digits every single game. That's kind of what it's been like over the last few weeks. So, there's going to be letdowns, and it's not like every single game there's a letdown. There's been plenty of blowouts that they're up by 30, and we don't have much to talk about because it's a blowout the rest of the way. So to me, it doesn't feel like this has been a huge trend this year. There's been a couple of notable exceptions, Cleveland being one. I think it's kind of interesting. Cleveland was after an 11-game win streak. This is after a 9-game win streak. I think the combination of having won a bunch of games in a row and being up by a lot maybe makes them feel a little bit invincible. But when the lead was blown, I had the last few minutes weren't great, and that's what kind of stood out to me.
Yeah, here's Kristaps Porzingis talking about that reaction to this loss and not overreacting, as he said.
How do you guys look so good for some parts of the game and then not look so good for the rest? Like, how does that happen?
Relaxing. Relax, which is natural, You go up 30, feel like everything's just smooth, and you relax. You give them some, and to that type of team, if you relax too much, they give them some open looks. Those guys can make shots. They're an offensive-minded team, and they got going. And then it's a tough battle to kind of bring it back to where we want it. And yeah, they played a competitive game, and we just gave them too much life.
What do you feel like is the biggest thing you guys need to take from this one, learn from it?
To be honest, not overreacting. I think we did a good job during the game, not overreacting, even though it was a big contrast in what happened in the game. It's the NBA. These kind of things happen, of course. We just don't want to make this a habit, and it hasn't been a habit for us. We slipped one game, and we did relax a little bit, and we paid the price.
So you mentioned the crunch time. That's where I'm focused on out of this one. They were fooling around with lineups in this game. Jaden Springer, Sphema Hyluk were out there to start the fourth. They started this game without a point guard, and Peyton Pritchard then threw him in to begin the second half. So they're mixing and matching. Porzingis even said later in his interview that there's stuff people don't even see out there that they're just trying in a game like this. It's experimentation season. Celtics officially clinched the 1 seed the night before for a variety of reasons, including a Hornets loss that we don't need to get into. But they've clinched. They're basically going to be the 1 seed in the whole NBA at this point, too, barring a massive collapse down the stretch here. So they're going to rest. They're going to experiment. And something like this is prone to happen in a game like this. And Joe said, I think he noted 58 games where teams have lost 20-point leads this year. So he's been hyper-focused on that after these games, trying to relay the Celtics that this is going to happen. But as you said, you got to get back into your mindset. Kristaps thought they did for periods of the third and the fourth. But then you get into crunch time, and you see the slowdown. Even earlier than that, Tatum had an 8-second violation at one point, which I thought really embodied this loss. But then down the stretch, too, going too slow, going into an isolation late in the shot clock. The Hawks really increased their ball pressure too. Jaylen Brown ran out the clock right to the last second on one of his shots in crunch time as well. And the Celtics are now 4-7 in games decided by 1 point with less than 1 minute to go. So this is the thing. It's something they have to improve on. You didn't get a lot of reflection from the Celtics or Joe Mazzulla on that aspect here. But I think if you're taking anything from this game, that's it. They're not a great team in crunch time. They're not bad, but they're not where they need to be either.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, looking at them going into the playoffs, like the hope was that they're not going to be in a lot of close games. I have a couple concerns about their ability to execute down the stretch. Free throws being one of them. Jaylen Brown has had his struggles, and then really everybody knows what's going to happen. It's going to be an isolation for either Jaylen or Jason, and I think until we consistently see different kinds of looks, more pick and rolls involving Porzingis down the stretch more. He's been really good at drawing fouls down the stretch in these games this year when given the opportunity. I think not having Derek White really hurt them tonight. We kind of forget how he's the clutchest player on the team by most advanced analytics, and not having him today, I think you could kind of feel that he wasn't there to set the pace. There's a little bit of uncertainty of like who was going to run the show. And so, yeah, I didn't love what we saw, and mostly from my standpoint, I think it would be great to see just anything other than an isolation fadeaway, really. Like, that's what, I don't really care if they drive to the basket and blow a layup, or if it's, a wide open look for Porzingis from a corner three that maybe isn't his best shot. Like, just anything just to kind of mix it up a little bit, because every basketball fan now knows that when you're watching the Celtics down the stretch, like, this is what they're going to get, and it makes it really easy for the defense to just hone in on that one play because they know it's coming. And so it's important that they break out of that, and I think they will in the playoffs. I think there's a sense right now of kind of like, let the guys play, let them go with it. But, when they go into the playoffs and Joe looks back at the season and looks, how many times did we try this and it didn't work, I would think that might be a data point that maybe actually helps them make a different decision down the stretch. Maybe that's the optimistic view.
It's a great point. Derek White, they're now 3-3 when he sits this season. Obvious impact there. Richard White, when we had him on the Garden Report a week ago, said he would like to see more Derek White in their crunch time offense, more pick and roll with him up high and KP. So that's something you're looking for down the stretch of the season, certainly, as they start to play more full games, probably closer to that first playoff series. It could be against the Hawks. Bulls didn't play too, another good crunch time team, maybe the best in the league this year, right up there with the Nuggets and some others. So starting to see, how these things we're looking at that could prevent the Celtics from accomplishing their goal this year could manifest themselves as early as the first round, where Miami pretty effective in that spot too, historically. So crunch time, the big one out of this one. Derek White, Drew Holiday both sit this game. Check out our Drew Holiday injury update. We did have some news on him today here in Atlanta at Shoot Around. You can also check out our coverage of practice on Wednesday. We're here all week and back in this building on Thursday for Celtics Hawks round 2. Pretty fitting turnaround to see them again after a game like this, and you probably can imagine how that's going to go. But what's your big takeaway from this game? Let us know below. Check out all the post-game reaction on CLNS Media. And at some point midweek, we'll do another Garden Report here. But for tonight, Celtics lose 120-118 to the Hawks and see their 9-game win streak come to an end. For Noah Dalzell over at CelticsBlog.com, I'm Bobby Manning. Check out CLNSmedia.com for more coverage.
Testing my skills on Prize Picks this season is the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $1,000 with just a few taps. Use the code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.